Good evening. This is CTV News for this rainy Thursday, March 26th. I'm Rochelle Metzger.
I'm Byron Scott. Glad to have you with us tonight. Well, the Maryland State unanimously approves a more than $40 billion budget this morning. The version is slightly different from Governor Hogan's proposal as well as the House's plan. Now, the budget restores a 2% cost of living raise for state workers. It also does away with most of the governor's cuts to education. Now, the Senate voted after rejecting several amendments.
The supplemental we've been putting into the pension plan is because of underfunding over the past number of years related to the corridor method, that we were playing catch up for that. We also know that that money that goes in now with compounding will save us in the long run. You know, it's pay me a little now or pay me a whole lot later, so I support this amendment.
We are putting in $1.45 billion as our base payment and $75 million more. That is an adequate contribution to keep us moving towards our goal of getting above 80%, which is what the rating agencies wanted, at the same target, the same time that we said we would when we passed the reform 3 years ago.
You can see this sweeper amendment is going to be very substantial for us, in addition to the actuarial, which I read you here. So on the basis of that, Mr. President, I'd ask for a red vote, but I do appreciate sharing the amendment and your concern about the pension.
Now, the main difference between the two chambers' plans is that the House removed Hogan's 1% cap on education formula increases. The Senate kept that cap and raised it to 1.5% in the future budgets. The chambers are expected to convene a conference committee next week to work out their differences. And transgender Marylanders may soon be able to get an updated birth certificate that indicates their changed identity. Currently, individuals who undergo sex change operations can get a new certificate, but it includes the words amended for gender. The new version will eliminate those 3 words. Supporters of the measure say the current system could lead to discrimination, a vote expected before the end of this current legislative session.
Maryland's alcoholic beverage distributors and wholesalers agreed to a voluntary ban on the delivery and sale of powdered alcohol. Comptroller Peter Franchot announced the agreement Wednesday. The U.S. Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau recently approved several labels for alcohol, which could be in stores nationwide by late summer. The product can be dissolved in a beverage to spike drinks. Franchot says the powdered alcohol has the potential for abuse, especially by minors. Well, Senator Anthony Muse proposes legislation that would block an attempt by Prince George's County Executive Rushern Baker to raise property taxes for the first time in more than 3 decades. Muse says the bill would prohibit the county from setting the rate higher than what is allowed by its charter.
We may need more money for education, but this bill says you cannot raise it unless you have shown that you have exhausted all measures. The economic times have taken such a terrible twist, or the property taxes have gone down, but you just can't have them saying in an unlimited way and forever that we're going to raise taxes, because this bill and what he's presenting does not just raise the property tax by 15%, it raises business taxes by 16%. It raises a tax on telecommunications, telephones, and computers by 12%. So what we're saying, we want you to have the money that you need in an emergency, but when that changes, you cannot continue with the tax hike being at the level in which it's set.
Baker had announced earlier this month that he planned on using a 2012 state loophole that allows county leaders to impose a tax without voter approval if the revenue generated goes to schools. He wants to use the law to raise property taxes by 15% to fund a $1.9 billion education budget.
And to that end, Baker's plan now in the hands of Prince George's Council members. His plan would increase funding for the school system. Council member Todd Turner says raising taxes can be very challenging.
The state legislature has numerous bills. Obviously, I understand, the proposed budget as proposed by the county executive has created a lot of questions. We're, as the county council, have the fiscal responsibility to approve the budget. We're just starting our budget review at this point, and we'll take all citizens of Prince George's opinions into consideration as we review this budget and make sure it's appropriate for us to be, as a way, I guess, to invest in our county as well. Make sure that we get the services that our residents deserve.
Are there other viable options to raise funds for education in this county?
They're not really. They're only limited amounts. Obviously, we have a tax cap in Prince George's County. This is one of the discussions that the state legislature had previously provided an opportunity in order to meet what we call the maintenance of effort for our school system. And so we'll have that discussion about whether or not what the county executive is proposing is the right thing for Prince George's County and our school system.
And the County Council must adopt a budget by June 1st. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Rochelle Metz.